Welcome back to another early episode here, folks. We got two topics to cover. Video's divided into two parts. First half is going to be Kamala's speech yesterday. And I do want to tell you that I counted how many times she said fight, and it's a lot. I don't know. I have no idea if she's trying to incentivize some form of violence, but that's a lot. That's the most. That's an incredible amount of fight. Anyways, that's in the first half. The second half is going to be Justin Trudeau's mistress, Canada's action figure, Melanie Jolie, the live action role player who plays dress up. She sits down one-on-one with CTV and discusses what the future is going to look like with Donald Trump as the president. So if you're looking just for, if you want to skip past Kamala, I don't blame you, and you're looking just for the Melanie Jolie part, then that's going to be in the second half. Nonetheless, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It tremendously helps the video. And without further ado, let's just get into it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country, with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. For fairness and the dignity of all people, a fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you guys. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. HU. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Let me know down below what you guys think about that speech. How many fights did you count? And now let's take a look at Melanie Jolie, Trudeau's mistress.
Hi, Minister Jolie. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Vashi.
Can you qualify, Minister, for Canadians watching tonight, how consequential you view Donald Trump's election to be?
It is a very important election. We always thought it was going to be an historic election, and we knew that the race was really, really tight. So that's why we've been engaging on both sides, and we were ready, and we are ready. So Canadians can rest assured.
Can you sort of describe in more detail when you talk about engaging on both sides, in particular on this side, on the Trump side, what that engagement has looked like?
Well, you know, we've had this Team Canada approach with many ministers involved. I've been also involved personally, the Prime Minister as well. Of course, I won't do any name dropping today, but indeed, we've had numerous conversations, maybe in Washington, maybe across the US, or also at the international level.
So that's extremely unspecific. I feel like she has not, and the Liberals have not been prepared for President Trump to resume office. In fact, Canada is completely screwed when Trump gets back in. It's actually quite funny, not haha funny, but more cry yourself to sleep funny, because Canada right now is at full capacity. Like, we have too many people living here than we should. We just let in too many people. And when Donald Trump's in on the 20th of January, on the 21st, he's going to be looking to deport 18 plus million people living in America. Now, a lot of these people, obviously from other parts of the world, from the southern border of the United States, but there are quite a few of them that have illegally entered from Canada. This has been an issue like on Roxham Road. We know a lot of people come into Canada. Also, a lot of people leave Canada illegally and seek refuge there. Yes, it's a real thing. So there's going to be some people that are likely brought back to Canada in small amounts. But my assumption, and the assumption of all professionals and analysts, and you're probably about to hear Vashi talk about this, is a lot of people are going to be running away from their deportation fate, and they're going to be, sneaking into Canada. And we could face upwards of 2+ million people trying to get into this country. And Canada is so progressive that under humanitarian law, it's unlikely that you're going to see the liberal, overly progressive, woke radical government say 2 million of you trying to come here. No, that's not happening. Reject it. So we're going to have likely a massive bump in our population that we are not prepared for, that we cannot handle. Our infrastructure is not set up. And the biggest question is, where the hell are they going to stay? And how much money is the Canadian government planning on giving these people? Because we know they're going to do it anyways. I don't agree with it, but what the heck is going to happen? And these are real concerns, real tangible concerns that are actually going to be taking place early next year.
So do you have an idea, and I respect the fact that you don't want to drop names right now, but do you have an idea, for example, who will be guiding the Canadian relationship on the part of Donald Trump's administration? And I ask because I think there is a lot more sort of ambiguity around, at least from the public's perspective, around who is surrounding Donald Trump, who will be shaping his policy, versus 2016, when I can remember very clearly the foreign affairs minister, people in the prime minister's office, they knew exactly who they were going to talk to in that administration. Do you have an idea who's going to be leading the Canada file for Donald Trump?
Well, it will be the ambassador that he will appoint to Canada, and of course, looking forward to knowing that person. And of course, it will be the Secretary of State. And now there are many, many different
Roseanne Barr
hypotheses of who it will be, but we will be ready, and we've been engaging also with different potential candidates.
What does it say to you that none of those people who you have been engaging with have provided assurances to you or other members of the federal cabinet that Canada will be exempt from the 10% tariff that Donald Trump says he plans to slap on all imports?
Well, first and foremost, the questions are not there yet. So the question is much more, how can we continue to work together on common objectives? We have, many things that we can work together on. We have strengths, we have leverages, and also we know Donald Trump. Our government has dealt with him. We were able to get through the new NAFTA together, and therefore we know how he thinks. And myself, I'm a businesswoman. I have a family in business. Trump is a businessman. I know that way of thinking, and of course we'll work with him on making sure that this is a win-win situation on both sides of the border.
Is that how you grew your net worth so substantially? instead of doing your job of being a politician and not a businesswoman, you are illegally giving yourself and your numbered company some government contracts? That was a weird admission.
Why isn't the tariff question one that is of the moment, as you describe it, not being? I mean, he is saying that he's going to put a 10% tariff. And I know the economic argument that the Canadian side is going to put forward, that it makes things more expensive. That hasn't swayed him yet, because many people have been making that argument over the last 3.5 months. He says he's going to put that 10% tariff on all imports. The Chamber of Commerce estimates that's going to cost the Canadian economy $30 billion. Again, my question was, why hasn't your government been able to get any kind of assurance from anyone around him that we would be exempt from that, given the relationship, as you describe it, being so strong and interdependent?
Well, first and foremost, I think President-elect Trump needed to campaign. So he did, along with his team. And now I think he went to bed very, very late last night. I think it was a very short night. And so right now it's the day after, and he's connecting with different people that will potentially be part of his administration, and also with leaders around the world. So one day at the time. So I won't go into any form of speculation, but what I can tell you is that we already know that more than 35 states in the US have the #1 country as a market where they export as Canada. We know also that we have very strong commercial ties, but also investment ties. We have people-to-people ties. This is a Team Canada, again, approach that we will have this time, and engaging with people at the mayoral level, so at the local authority level, at the state level, working on our side with premiers, and of course with the business community, unions, etc. So if there's one country on earth that understands the US, Vashi, Canadians can be assured that it is us. It is Canada. And so what I've been doing also, and that's very important for people watching at home to understand, is that I've been receiving a lot of calls from all around the world today, and also of course in the previous days and weeks since the beginning of this campaign, of how to deal with a potential Trump administration and how to deal with a potential Harris administration. And so we've been engaging with many friends and allies around the world on this too.
When you reference the potential point person on Canada, that person
is it just me, or does she sound like a total crock of crap? I'm just not buying anything Melanie Jolie is currently saying.
2016, when NAFTA was being renegotiated, was Ambassador Kelly Craft. I spoke with her just a few moments ago, and again on the weekend actually, and in both interviews she emphasized, to a greater degree than I've ever heard before, the fact that if Canada wants to continue being a trading partner, as you have just described it, with the United States, that the expectation from a Trump administration will be that we increase defense spending, and we do it much sooner than the 2032 target that your government has set out to meet the NATO commitment of at least 2% of GDP on defense spending. Is your government, Minister, prepared to speed up that timeline?
Well, we're definitely prepared to making very important investments, generational investments in defense. And we have to. To be frank, for a long time we didn't enough, and that's not only us, it's many conservative governments before, and this is something that Canada has to take more seriously, and that's why we presented a new defense policy where, Vashi, it's important to remember, we're tripling the defense budget. And we're tripling the defense budget, investing where? In North America, in our defense, in the Arctic, in making sure that we're strong together, Canada, US. And that's why I say we can work together. We can work with this administration, because we know that national security and defense is a priority for them. It is a priority for us. And that's why by doing so, we will create jobs at home, and we'll create jobs in the US, and we'll be able to work together on making sure that ultimately Canadians and Americans are protected.
It's absolutely insane that she's trying to brag about tripling Canada's defense budget. We have a minimum requirement, not an opportunity, a minimum requirement to hit 2% of our GDP here in Canada and put that towards our defense budget. And since Justin Trudeau has been in power, we've been doing 1.2, 1.3%. I think we just hit 1.4%. And Trudeau laid out a plan. These friggin' weird wacko liberals laid out a plan just the other day that by the year 2032, so in 8 years from now, 6 years, 8 years, in 8 years from now, Canada will finally hit that 2% minimum requirement towards our defense budget under Trudeau's regime. That's not good. That's not good. It doesn't matter if you're tripling. You got to 10x it, and you got to do it right now because Canada is not in good standing with our allies because we're not putting enough towards our defenses. And like this has already been said by NATO, and I made videos about this, a couple months ago or whenever it was, going on, that NATO has said Canada needs to prepare for a conventional war. So something's going to happen. And Canada is not ready, and we're going to be lagging behind, and that's not a good look.
And I do understand the argument you're putting forth. I also understand that defense spending has increased, at least the allocation of money towards defense spending in general, has been lacking in some years. But I can tell you clearly from speaking to the person whom is still a very close confidant of Donald Trump, that she says it's not enough. What you have just laid out is not enough for Donald Trump. So once again, I'll ask you, are you willing to go beyond the plan that you have set out so far, beyond the target that you set out in July, for which we actually don't have many details about how you're going to reach it? Are you willing to reach that 2% target sooner than 2032? Yes or no, Minister?
Well, the goal is definitely to increase our defense spending and to adapt to what's going on geopolitically. And as the foreign minister, I must say that I'm very concerned about what's going on in the world right now. And I definitely think that we need to do more when it comes to defense spending. And sometimes it's been rare in
9 years. You've had an opportunity for 9 years and you haven't done it. But for some reason, in the next 11 months, you're trying to convince people that you get another chance and you got 4 more years. Wow. I want whatever she's smoking because that sounds like it's good stuff.
In the past in Canada, the foreign minister and the defense minister would agree on this, but I completely agree on this. And I have a quite hawkish point of view on this because I really, really think that when at the time the way North America was thought to be defended was through NORAD, well, we now need to update our approach. We need to deal with adversaries such as Russia, because Russia is a neighbor, and also the fact that Russia is allowing China way more in the Arctic. And so the Americans, notwithstanding the administration, because to be frank, our geography doesn't change while administrations change, have been telling us that they want us to step up our game in the Arctic. And that's what we're doing. For the first time, not only are we investing and tripling our budget in terms of defense, but also we're investing in us here at home. I think a lot of Canadians have been seeing that we're invested also through NATO and investing in Ukraine, investing in Indo-Pacific. We will do that. But fundamentally also, it's about us, it's about North America.
Look at Vashi's face. I'm not even looking at Melanie Jolie. I'm just looking at Vashi and how unimpressed she seems.
Just one final question, and to respectfully challenge you, Minister. Again, I'm not taking away from the additional investments that you've made in defense, but they don't come anywhere close to what NATO's expectations were. Prior to July, your government had not even assigned a date by which they would meet the NATO targets. If you were in fact planning for the possible eventuality of another Trump administration, would that not have been something you took more seriously in the last number of years, instead of waiting until just this July to say, okay, we'll finally do what we agreed to do almost a decade ago?
I think what the Americans will look at also is how much we're investing here at home, and also how much that will have in terms of impacts in our economy and their economy. Buying 88 F-35s is creating jobs on both sides of the border. When we're investing in icebreakers, and let's remember, the US doesn't have a lot of capacity in terms of icebreakers, we do. And so we can help them through that, and we'll be creating jobs, of course, in Canada, but also on the other side of the border. And that's why we signed the new ICE Pact agreement with the US and with Finland. And we'll continue to do that as a procurement process is speed up, because of course we need to make sure that while we're increasing the budget, that we're allocating the money, that we can hire new people being part of the Canadian Armed Forces, which is a fantastic opportunity, and also we're investing in the equipment that is much needed.
Just very quickly though, does that, can you be explicit? Are you willing to speed things up? Are you willing to spend more quicker? Because that is what Kelly Craft is saying is necessary for your government to do. That July commitment took too long to arrive at, and that it's going to take too long to get to 2032. Are you willing to change anything beyond what you've already laid out?
Vashi, you've been asking me that question 4 times, and that's a strategy of yours of asking a lot of the same questions.
Because you haven't
I've
answered.
given you my answer.
You haven't answered, dude.
Of course, we will be sitting down with anybody that is willing to have that conversation, because ultimately this is a win-win situation. We need to invest in our defense. The US needs also to make sure that they make the right investments also when it comes to the Arctic. And so we're part of NORAD, we're part of NATO, and we'll work together.
So you are open to a different timeline. Is that fair to interpret from what you just said?
I'm saying that we're making huge investments, and in that sense, we're willing to have many conversations with the Americans, as we're always open to have many conversations with the Americans. But also, we need to make sure that these conversations are in the context of investing in our security and also reinforcing the NATO alliance.
And I understand that. I'm not trying to insinuate that it would be any different or that we'd be investing in anything other than our own security. But I'm just confused. Am I to interpret that you are willing to go beyond what you've already laid out?
So, Vashi, we have a target. We've announced it. Right now, also, we presented a defense policy update, and that defense policy update triples the budget. So the target is important, but concretely what Canadians want to know is fundamentally whether that money will be hitting the ground. And my job with the Minister of Defense is to make sure that that money doesn't stay something that is hypothetical. It is actually creating jobs and also investing in key equipment that our Canadian Armed Forces need. So I'll be focusing on that. And meanwhile, anybody that wants to have conversation about defense and foreign policy, I'm open to it.
Okay, I will leave it on that note. Minister, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.
What the heck was that? Are you kidding me? She didn't answer a single question. I've never seen Vashi so unimpressed since I've been talking about and paying attention to politics. That is incredible. And this just goes to show what just happened in America is about to happen here. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the video. I've shared my opinion. I would absolutely love to know yours. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you in another one. Bye for now.